Did you know that even a glass of water you drink, a bite of your favorite food, or the air you breathe may contain invisible microplastics? Recent studies have found microplastics inside the human body, with shocking results showing they can accumulate in the blood, organs, heart, and even the brain. So, what impact do these microplastics have on our health, and what can we do to prevent their entry? Today, I'll discuss how microplastics enter our bodies, their potential health effects, and practical ways to reduce exposure. Microplastics can enter our bodies through three main routes. First, they enter through ingestion. Microplastics can get into our bodies directly through the food we eat and the water we drink. In fact, studies show that a liter of bottled water contains an average of over 240 microplastic particles, and microplastics have also been found in tap water. Research has also found that bottled water often contains more microplastics than tap water. Microplastics have also been detected in seafood, salt, honey, beer, rice, and even vegetables and fruits. Some studies suggest that vegetables and fruits may absorb microplastics from the soil through their roots. Second, microplastics can enter the body through inhalation. Foods packaged in plastic can contain higher concentrations of microplastics. Tiny particles may shed from packaging and mix with food, or contaminate it during cooking when plastic containers are used. As a result, it's clear that microplastics can continuously enter our bodies through what we eat and drink every day. There's a high chance we're inhaling invisible microplastics with every breath we take. Studies have found that indoor air contains more microplastics than outdoor air. Everyday items like synthetic clothing, carpets, sofas, bedding, and curtains can constantly shed microplastic fibers into the air. One study found that a person can inhale up to 7,000 microplastic particles in a single day. In poorly ventilated indoor environments, the concentration of airborne microplastics can be even higher. Microplastics from tire wear can spread through the air along roads, increasing the chance of inhalation outdoors as well. Ultimately, we're exposed to microplastics both indoors and outdoors, and they can enter our bodies directly through breathing. Third, microplastics may be able to penetrate the skin. Recent research shows that nano-sized microplastics can penetrate the skin, especially if the skin is damaged. Some cosmetics and skincare products contain microplastics, and repeated long-term exposure may increase absorption through the skin. Studies suggest that nano-sized microplastics can enter the skin through sweat glands or pores, and some may even spread throughout the body via the bloodstream. However, research on the long-term health effects of microplastic absorption through the skin is still ongoing and requires further validation. Still, many experts recommend avoiding cosmetics containing microplastics to reduce skin exposure. So, what effects do these microplastics have on our health once they enter the body? First, they can trigger inflammation and oxidative stress. When microplastics enter the body, our immune system recognizes them as foreign substances and activates an immune response. However, in the process of removing microplastics, immune cells can cause excessive inflammation, which may damage healthy cells. Studies have shown that microplastics can increase oxidative stress in the body and damage cell membranes and DNA. Prolonged damage can raise the risk of inflammatory diseases, cardiovascular problems, and neurodegenerative disorders. Especially, nano-sized microplastics can cross cell membranes, enter cells, and potentially reach the nucleus, raising concerns about genetic mutations. Ultimately, long-term exposure to microplastics may lead to chronic inflammation and disrupt immune system balance. Next, microplastics can affect cardiovascular health. When microplastics enter the bloodstream, they can accumulate in blood vessels, disrupt circulation, and damage vessel walls. A 2023 study found microplastics in the arteries of heart surgery patients, and these patients were 4.5 times more likely to suffer a heart attack or stroke than the general population. Microplastics may also cause inflammation in blood vessels, promote atherosclerosis, and contribute to hypertension, clot formation, and other cardiovascular diseases. Notably, nano-sized microplastics can cross the blood-brain barrier, potentially affecting nervous system health. In summary, microplastics are not just an environmental issue, they pose a direct risk to cardiovascular health. In addition, microplastics can disrupt hormone balance and reproductive health. Microplastics often contain chemicals like bisphenol A, phthalates, and styrene, which are known endocrine disruptors. BPA and phthalates can mimic hormones in the body, interfering with normal hormonal functions. They may disrupt the balance of estrogen and testosterone, leading to reduced fertility, infertility, early puberty, and abnormal fetal development. Animal studies have shown that microplastics and their chemical additives can reduce sperm count, impair ovarian function, and cause fetal growth issues and birth defects. In experiments, animals exposed to BPA during pregnancy showed reproductive organ abnormalities and hormone imbalances in their offspring, raising concerns about similar effects in humans. Overall, the harmful chemicals in microplastics are not just environmental pollutants. They can seriously disrupt human hormonal systems, reproductive health, and endocrine function. Finally, microplastics may pose serious risks to brain health. Research shows that microplastics can travel through the bloodstream and reach the brain, potentially affecting the nervous system. Especially, nano-sized microplastics can cross the blood-brain barrier, enter brain tissue, trigger inflammation, and damage nerve cells. A 2023 study found that animals exposed to microplastics had increased inflammation and reduced nerve cell function in their brains. Ongoing damage may be linked to neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Some studies have reported that microplastics increase reactive oxygen species in the brain and disrupt neurotransmitter balance, potentially leading to cognitive decline and memory loss. So, why might microplastics accumulate in the brain more than in the liver or kidneys? Scientists report that microplastics may accumulate in the brain more than in the liver or kidneys, and there are two main reasons for this. First, microplastics are extremely small and can pass through the blood-brain barrier. Normally, the brain is protected from harmful substances by the blood-brain barrier. However, studies show that nanometer-sized microplastics can penetrate this barrier and enter brain tissue directly. According to a 2022 study published in Environmental Science and Technology, nano-sized microplastics can travel through the bloodstream, cross the BBB, and accumulate in brain tissue. A 2023 study in the journal Nanomaterials observed that nanometer-sized microplastics damaged the endothelial cells of brain blood vessels in animal experiments, increasing the likelihood of brain tissue penetration. In other words, even though the brain is designed to be protected from toxins, very small microplastics can bypass this defense and reach deep into brain tissue. Second, the brain is a fat-rich organ, making it easier for microplastics to accumulate there. The brain is composed of about 60% fat by weight, which increases the likelihood of microplastics accumulating in brain tissue. Studies show that microplastics have a strong affinity for lipids, allowing them to bind easily to fatty tissues and increasing the chance of long-term accumulation in the brain. In particular, microplastics accumulated in the brain may impair nerve cell function and trigger neuroinflammation, which has been linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. This means that once microplastics build up in the brain, they are unlikely to be easily eliminated and may negatively affect neurological health over time. So, how can we minimize our exposure to microplastics in daily life? Fortunately, there are practical steps we can take. First, use glass or stainless steel containers. Plastic containers can leach microplastics and harmful chemicals into food and drinks over time, especially when exposed to heat, acids, or fats. Studies show that placing hot food in plastic containers or microwaving them increases microplastic release. So, whenever possible, it's safer to use containers made of glass or stainless steel. Second, drink filtered water. Research shows that a 1-liter plastic water bottle contains an average of over 240 microplastic particles, and some brands have been found to contain more than 10,000. Plastic particles can enter bottled water during manufacturing or bottling, and microplastics can continue to leach out during storage. Drinking tap water filtered with activated carbon or reverse osmosis filters is an effective way to reduce microplastic intake. Third, choose natural fiber clothing. The clothes we wear can also release microplastics. Synthetic fibers like polyester, nylon, and acrylic shed microplastic fibers with every wash, and these can pass through wastewater treatment plants into rivers and oceans. In fact, a single wash can release hundreds of thousands of microplastic fibers from synthetic clothing. To reduce this, choose natural fibers like cotton, linen, wool, or silk, and use special filters or laundry bags when washing synthetic clothes. Fourth, reduce consumption of plastic packaged foods. Microplastics and endocrine disruptors like BPA and phthalates can leach from plastic packaging into food. The release of microplastics increases when fatty or hot foods are stored in plastic containers. Whenever possible, choose products packaged in glass or paper, or buy in bulk and store food yourself to reduce exposure. Fifth, manage indoor air quality. Microplastics can float in the air and enter our bodies as we breathe. Carpets, curtains, sofas, and synthetic fiber furniture can continuously shed plastic fibers, polluting indoor air. To reduce indoor microplastic levels, ventilate your home at least 2 to 3 times a day. Use an air purifier with a HEPA filter instead of just a vacuum cleaner. Wet mop floors frequently rather than just dry dusting. Choose carpets and curtains made from natural fibers instead of synthetics. By making these small changes in daily habits, you can significantly reduce your exposure to microplastics. We have explored how microplastics enter our bodies, what health effects they can cause, and practical steps we can take to reduce our exposure. Current research shows that microplastics can travel through the bloodstream and reach organs, the heart, and even the brain, potentially causing inflammation, hormone disruption, nerve damage, and other health issues. However, the microplastics problem cannot be solved by individual efforts alone. Strengthening policies to reduce plastic use. Encouraging companies to develop eco-friendly products and comply with regulations. Ongoing scientific research on microplastic pollution. All three of these must work together for a fundamental solution. That doesn't mean there's nothing we can do. Use glass or stainless steel containers. Drink filtered water. Choose natural fiber clothing. Manage indoor air quality. Even these small changes in daily habits can make a big difference in reducing your exposure to microplastics. Creating a healthy environment starts with small actions. To protect our bodies and the planet, we all need to start making an effort now. This has been Dear My Life.